So some of them were not very happy in the beginning. But I explained, you see, most people, my friends and family have known me to serve mostly in church spaces. So I said, you know, you're already serving your nation in your church, in the National Fellowship, with Interreligious Council. Isn't that enough? We thought if you came to tell us you were building a church, maybe it would resonate with what you've been doing all these years. You've been in the corporate world and you've been serving churches in different capacities all the way to national level. Why politics? I said, because I feel I need to serve even more. For me, I'm not joining politics. I may not like the word and term politics. I see it as leadership, service.
Yes.
I
think a lot of politicians forget that that is what you're supposed to do. You are there to serve.
For me, this is a job that has a JD. Well, you're serving over 40 million people, so that's quite a job. But better still, it's a way to serve, a way to give back. For me, I see this in twofold. One, it is a job where I have to do certain things because I've committed. I must do this. But on the other hand, it's a service. You're giving your time, your life, because if it's a job, then it's 8 to 5. But this is not, this goes beyond 8 to 5. You're on call 24/7. It's like being a mother, you know. The
Absolutely.
baby doesn't know that it is 3 a.m. No.
Or at 6 you have to get up
They
and
don't
go to
care.
work.
They don't care that you were up last night writing documents at 3 a.m. They'll scream. And this is how I look at being president. You have a big family. In our case, about 45 million people and more. And you have to cater for their needs. So it's service.
You know, you said that, you know, you look at it at the job part, and one of the things that has always been strong about you is, in a way, you're like a worker bee. For what I know of you, you like to do the work. You like to do the work, because even though you went for Miss Uganda, you've never been the kind of person who's looked for the camera or looked for the limelight. If anything, you've always run away from it. So it's interesting that this is going to have to change for you.
As I've had to explain to my family, I believe this is a calling. This is something I've known since I was 14 years old. If you remember Melanie, who Wildest won together. So we're introducing ourselves, and they tell us, what's your name, where do you come from, what's your wildest dream? Wildest won Namagonga, first day you're in class, and I was very tall. I've been this height since I was, I think, 13 years old. So I was seated at the back. So I was the last person to introduce myself. And I get up and I say, oh, my wildest dream is to be the next president of Uganda. Everybody was like, excuse me? Who do you think you are? I said, you said your wildest dreams. I didn't say anything. This is my wildest dream. But to bring it out that way is, you know, the Bible says that what you confess is what you possess. And speaking about it, when God tells you something and it's beyond you, the best thing to do is first build faith in yourself. Here is a little girl who's about 16 being told, you're going to give birth to the Lord Jesus Christ. You're not even married. Her first response was, how can this be? But after a time she believed it, and everything else is history as we know it now. So now here I am. I knew that I had had a voice speak to me, and I knew for sure it was God, because I've been in this space. My faith walk started in 1988. I gave my life to Christ when I was 8 years old. So I got born again when I was 8.
Wow.
And a lot of people thought, okay, I went to a crusade. One of the house helps took me for a crusade just to attend. And then when they made an altar call, I thought I liked what I had,
And you went up?
and I went up. So I gave my life to Christ in Ginger on Main Street Primary School. That's where the crusade was held.
I bet a lot of people thought, oh, she's really young. She doesn't really know.
I was the only young child who went up to give. So when you're a child, you just go. So people thought I had just gone, but in there, I remained in there. When we were in primary, we led revivals and we were preaching and all that, and it went on all the way to secondary school. So I was accustomed to hearing instructions. So this was, and at that age, it's exciting anyway. I'm going to be the next president of Uganda. Wow. But as you get older and you realize the responsibility, you start to pull back a little bit. Then I started seeing what politics was like, and I wanted to pull back a little more. And I'm thinking, this is not what I want. This is, I like my private life. That's why I know very many times you try to push me into public spaces. Do PR for this company. Do this news interview. And I always said, Crystal, I'm not comfortable. Another person who was, remember Mitch? Mitch was always trying to push me, and you guys mentored me, and everybody else was at Sanyo FM at the time. But I was not very comfortable being in the public space. I thought being, you know, private
You'd rather
would
be behind the scenes.
Yes.
Working.
Yes.
Getting stuff done, but hidden.
I'm not a workaholic anymore. I've learned to balance my life and have some fun as well.
Nice.
So I'm not a workaholic. The workaholic you knew has, you know, become, I think you can, don't you think there's a difference? I used to be so serious, and everybody used to think, that little girl is too stuck up. Not anymore. I'm more, I think I'm more balanced. I have more fun now.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yes.
So when you went for Miss Uganda, you didn't win, but you actually, I think, you took Miss Intelligence at the time?
There were different competitions during Miss Uganda. There was Miss Photogenic, Miss Talent, and Miss Wit, what most people are calling Miss Intelligence. We had more or less like IQ tests done on us and different interviews, how you spoke, how you thought, and they were basically gauging. We don't want to just be beautiful. We want to also know the intelligent ones as well. So that is the award I got. So even if I didn't become Miss Uganda, at least I got to be Miss Intelligence for our run. So
and we
it
were
was still
also
a good
lucky to
thing.
get to know you because you were Miss Sanyo FM as well.
Because when I got that award, then I got a job opening up for me. So that's how I ended up at Sanyo FM.
We met.
Yes.
And then what about Apprentice Africa?
Well, Apprentice Africa was a funny story. I came to office early in the morning. I used to open up the office at Lois Canad. At the time, I had two jobs. I was working at UTV, which is now called UBC.
Yes.
So we just transitioned to UBC from UTV. At the time, I was reading news with former... The late Bale Francis. May his soul rest in peace. He mentored us quite well. And I was working at an advertising firm. So I'd be at 4 a.m. would be picked up to go to read news and prepare for the news for the day, because I used to read the 6 a.m. bulletin and the 9 p.m. bulletin. So I had to be here very early in the morning, but I had a day job from 8 to 5 p.m. Then I'd go back to the station and do the other news. So at the advertising agency, because I used to be very early in town, I used to end up opening the other office as well. So this one morning I opened the office and the newspaper person delivers them, and there was a very strange picture that day. The advertisement for Apprentice. I'd seen Apprentice America, but the advertisement spoke to me. It was a woman dressed half in a suit, business suit, and looking sharp, with the hair all pulled back, and on one half she was wearing tour pants with a toolbox, helmet and all that. I thought, this looks like me.
Yeah, this is me.
So I thought this is interesting. So I spoke to my colleagues that day. I showed them, look at this. What do you think? They're calling for applications for Apprentice Africa. Do you think I should? So that very day, my colleagues did the pictures for me. They shot me right in the office, took my pictures, and encouraged me. You could put in your application. So we downloaded the application, printed it out, and I handed it in. And that's how I got onto the Apprentice Africa. Interesting. I was, you on that? You were one of the panelists at the time.
Yes.
And I was told, sorry, you're actually the one who delivered the news. You said, oh, Nancy, I'm sorry, we are not taking you for, you've not been one of the successful contestants for Apprentice Africa. I said, excuse me? That was the, the judge's decision and all that, and I refused. I said, no. Could you please give me the reasons why? And I remember your face was like...
You were said to me, you're like, this is meant for me.
I said, this is meant for me. I can feel it. It's meant for me. And I would like to know why I was not selected. So you said, give me a moment. You made me wait in the lobby at Serena. So I sat there and I'm thinking, these judges, how can they think? That is what they call believing in oneself. So later on you sat down after you had finished, I don't know what you were doing, and you came back and explained to me. I said, no, I'm going for the Apprentice Africa. So I went back home and I did what I normally do when I feel something is not right. So I went home and I prayed. I said, God, please, I would like to go for this. It's a wonderful opportunity and I'd like to go for this. I actually prayed and said, please allow me to go for this. Because I knew the human beings can make their judgment, but I know the ultimate judge. So that's where I go to my court of appeal. So that night I went to the court of appeal and said, God, for this reason and this reason and this reason. You know, King David in the Bible, he always went to God and spoke to him nicely and nicely until God would make some allowances. So I thought, he's a father, which means you can talk to him like a daughter. So I spoke to him, and the following morning I got a call from Nigeria directly, and they said, oh, are you Nancy? We understand you did not go through in your national competitions, but when we looked at the videos, there is a lady from Uganda who insisted we look at your video. You didn't remember that. There is one of the judges in Uganda, a lady called and said, you must look at this lady's video. And since you were the only female judge who I had spoken to, I knew it was you. And they said, how soon can you get on the plane? And I said, really?
I'm coming.
I'm coming. That's how I ended up on the Apprentice Africa. So,
how was that experience for you?
Amazing. It was an 18-week job interview, and we didn't sleep. We hardly had time to do anything. But so, what it was about, it was different companies come together, and they're looking for the ultimate apprentice, and there's only one job. Bank PHB who were competing for one job, and your salary was $100,000. So we had to prove ourselves. You had to be smart, you had to be presentable, you had to be hardworking, you had to be persistent, you had to show resilience. Whether with sleep or no sleep, we worked through the night non-stop, 3 days. You cat-napped and you walked around like a zombie, but you had to get work done. You know, when people see Apprentice Africa,
they don't see that.
The edited version.
Previously on Crystal One-on-One. Yeah, give everybody a shot. Let everybody try. Let everybody go out there and try to do influencer work. Then tomorrow, brands will, okay, we like this one we don't like. So if people say no to you a number of times, you start to kind of get the feeling that maybe this is not really my, and then you find your path. But if you don't try it, you'll never. So just try.
Edited version. They see when you're presenting in the boardroom and you're all dressed in a suit and you're presenting the numbers in the boardroom. They don't see how the numbers came about. They show snippets of you running on the street and you getting into office, but they don't see, for every episode you watched, it was a whole week's hard work. We came up with video ads, we came up with, I remember we had to paint. We were stretched beyond anything I've ever done before, because you were given assignments in industries you had never worked in. And you had to come up with a plan, because you had to sell something, you had to present something, you had to market something. We learned accounts overnight. We did all kinds of things, but it stretched us, and we realized, many of us realized we had abilities we were not aware of. I remember my Kenyan friend Eddie, they gave us, we had to run an art gallery.
Oh.
And very important people were coming to this art gallery. Art lovers, as in professional artists, were coming to this art gallery. And we had to, we thought we were going to, you know, try and sell the art pieces. They told us we were going to be part of the artists who were going to showcase. So we had to paint and come up with, luckily enough, I was good in art in school.
Oh, goodness.
Now, my friend Eddie had never done art at all. He's a Kenyan friend. We still are in touch. You know what was amazing?
What?
He made the best art piece for the night, and it sold the highest. But he had never touched a paintbrush in his life.
No way.
And his art piece sold the highest. And they thought it was a professional piece.
That is amazing.
We are human beings.
We all have untapped talents.
We can do things beyond our wildest imagination. It's just conditioning. True. So Apprentice gave me friends of all categories. So we were friends in the house.
Yeah.
And we got friends outside. The CEOs and managers of the companies that we were working for ended up being lifelong friends. Actually, the company I've been working for till now, Sahara. In Uganda, we're called Asharami Uganda, but we're part of the Sahara group. And I introduced them to Uganda. I told them, you know what, you need to come to my country.
Okay.
Uganda is my country. I love my country. You know, when people stand and say, I'm American, and you think, what is so cool about being American? So everywhere I go, I am Ugandan. And you need to pay attention that there's a Ugandan here.
Exactly, and you should proudly talk about where you're from.
I told them about my beautiful country. I warned them that when you come to Uganda, you may never leave.
Which is true for many people.
Yes. And I told them Uganda is beautiful, you need to bring your business. So eventually they agreed, they came, visited, and they agreed, they brought the business here, and it's doing well. And such opportunities maybe would never have come up if I hadn't gone for The Apprentice.
Yes.
We met so many friends and we maintained the friendships up to now. It has exposed me to international companies. Some of them have mentored me in business. And when I told them I was running for political office, they were like, okay. Not very surprising. So it exposes you, it teaches you, and gives you not just networks, but friends.
Okay, that's lovely. So you started your own businesses. When was that?
That too
Did
was
you
not...
make like a conscious decision and say, okay, I've worked in the corporate world for a while, well, why can't I do my own thing? Was that it, or?
No, actually, I thought I would start business at some point.
Okay.
But at the time I started business, it was not planned that I would start business at that particular time. I'd wanted to start business and I had planned it. I like to plan things and write stuff and calculate things and... However, life is what happens when you what? So life is happening. You've planned everything out, and then life actually happens.
Yes.
That was not part of the
It
original
was not
plan.
part of your small plan.
So at that particular time, I went through a very difficult period in my life. 2011 was a very interesting year.
Okay.
My marriage fell apart then, and then my father died the same year. So it was tough. And I just had my second baby. Not only did I have a small baby, but I had had my babies quickly.
So you had 2 little ones.
2 little babies, both breastfeeding.
Oh my. As a woman, I'm just imagining the stress.
Well, it was like I had twins. I just happened to have another one while one was still breastfeeding. So the doctors said it was fine. And I'd bring up healthier babies if they breastfed longer. So I decided
To breastfeed
to
them together.
breastfeed both of them until the older one was 2 and some months.
Okay.
So I've had an longer experience, don't you think? Anyway, you wake up in the morning and you actually have no plan. And you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Because you can't see, it's like a door has been shut behind you. So you can't see behind and you can't see in front, and you're in that space. So you sink deeper and deeper because you can't think, you can't work, you can't. And shortly before that, I had resigned from my workplace so that I could focus
On the babies.
on the babies for some time. Then I'd go back to the corporate world. That was my plan.
Right.
The plan was not to start the businesses. The plan was, let me take care of my children maybe for 2 years, then go back into the corporate world. That's when my marriage fell apart, and my dream of becoming a stay-home mom just shattered. And I had to stop sinking. I think I reached rock bottom,
Rock
I think.
bottom. Yeah.
I was thrown out of my home. I was confused because I didn't know what next. All the plans I had, you know, when you're young, you have, after university, I will do this, and then I'll do this, then I will retire at 30, then I'll go into this, and we have all those beautiful plans, and then life happens. So I woke up one day and thought, okay, I had planned to have a cleaning company. Maybe I can start it now.
Okay.
So that's what happened. I woke up one morning and I was tired of crying
You pulled
and
yourself
wanting to
out.
die, because in that space, your world has ended. So I wanted to die. I had cried a lot. And I was not dying. So I had asked God, please, I don't want to die and leave my children behind. If we are to die, let's all die so that my children don't suffer. But I can't die and leave my children behind. So you're in a catch-22. You're between a rock and a hard place. You don't want to die because you have small babies, but at the same time, you don't want to live anymore.
Yes.
So I woke up one morning, since God had refused to allow me to die, and picked up the phone and started calling friends and saying, I've opened up my cleaning company. We clean carpets, we clean homes, we fumigate, we do all this stuff according to the plan I had
That you
previously.
Yes, yes.
And a friend of mine called me and said, oh, I have 5 dirty carpets, please come pick them up. I borrowed a car, picked up the carpets, took them home and washed the carpets.
Okay.
And that's how Spring Clean started. I needed to survive.
So you had no one that you could turn to at that time?
I did have, as I said, I have a big family. So this whole time, I'm scared to tell my family that my
Yes.
marriage has fallen apart.
I understand.
And you're also hoping that he'll come back. So you don't want to tell them, and then he comes back, and then you look like you're not serious. So I hid it from my family for a long time. So while I was struggling, my family didn't know what was going on.
Okay.
In Luganda, it is said, "Ebyomunju tebitotorwa." Because when you tell your friends and family about your spouse, you will forgive your spouse, but your friends will take a longer time, or your family will take a longer time.
They will remember.
Now I have big brothers who have been so protective over me for many years. You tell them that I am heartbroken. Brothers don't take nicely to their little sisters being hurt. So at that time you're thinking, so I struggled with this for a while before I told any of my family. Eventually they found out because I was in the news for being thrown out of my home. That's how most of my family found out. They said, why didn't you tell us before this got out of hand? Well, I was hoping it would get better and all that. But I remember my big brother and my big brothers and big sisters and other friends coming to CPS to pick me up. Because I've been thrown in jail, long story, that's for another day. For non-payment of rent and all those things. And they just came and took charge, paid my rent, sorted me out. They asked me what was going on, so what is the plan? And they also knew I didn't have a plan because I was heartbroken, I was confused and all that. So Spring Clean started
From that
because I
place
was trying
to survive.
to survive and not make it public that I was going through what I was going through. So that's how Spring Clean started.
Okay.
So it was a company, but a one-woman company.
In the
I'd pick the
beginning.
carpets, I'd go, I learned how to fumigate because I wanted both worlds. I wanted to take care of my family, of my children at the time were too small. So they needed my presence, they needed food and everything else, clothes and everything. And yet, I needed to make an income. So I had to decide I could be a stay-home mom and still work. So it worked for me.
Okay.
I could go clean houses, come back home. So I got a friend who was in pest control and he taught me how to fumigate houses. So the first few houses I fumigated, I did it myself because I didn't have enough money to spend
pay somebody else.
pay somebody else. So I would tell people, we're going to come and fumigate your house, but you need to leave your house empty. Because I didn't want people to know that I was fumigating their houses. Oh, so Nancy, will your boys come in? I said, don't worry, the fumigation will be done. So I'd get there, put on my overall, get in, fumigate. Eventually my cousin came on board and he started helping me. So we'd fumigate houses together, we'd clean houses together. So eventually I started getting other employees, but very few people knew. I was caught one day